Thank you so much. At least, unlike everyone else, you didn't call me Dr. SHERR, and I did not have to correct that mistake. But I have to correct another. I am no longer head of the Russia and Eurasia program. I am senior fellow, ведущий сотрудник, which means I have more prestige and less authority than I had before. I would like to begin by thanking Open Ukraine and the Arseniy Yatsenyuk Foundation for its commitment, for the quality of discussions that it organizes, and for its example. It is an honor for Chatham House to be your partner. Let me, if I may, add two words to our central topic. Does democracy matter? Where and why? Our answers today to this question, I think, have to be somewhat different from what they were a few years ago, maybe even different from last year. The problem, the worry we face today, one of the biggest, is that throughout Europe, but particularly here, these questions will be answered by image makers rather than by experienced, knowledgeable, and honest people. Worst, image makers can always offer certainties. Experienced and knowledgeable people dealing with complex problems do so with humility. Point number one, the EU, which absorbed a lot of attention in two panels of this forum. Where democracy mattered, has always mattered historically, apart from the United States and Canada, was first and foremost the EU. And Karl Schwarzenberg was absolutely right in what he said at the beginning, that although the European Union always had an economic basis, it was from the beginning a political project, and I would add a geopolitical project, because during the time that its antecedents, the European Coal and Steel Community, the Treaty of Rome came into existence, democratic values were being threatened not only from inside the membership of future EU countries, but outside. The European Union, as it is now, not only became a success and an example, it became a model. But this takes me on to the question of why democracy matters, because this model has always been attractive, where it has been attractive, to two sets of people whose reasons are not always the same. For one set of people who believe that political and economic liberty matter in their own right, and for others who simply think that these liberties and that model is the most effective route to prosperity. Well, in both respects today, thanks to the financial crisis, which is global, and the Eurozone crisis, that model has lost its luster, and it has lost its aura of infallibility. Not only do we find in the world people from prosperous states who are very prosperous, who come from states that are not democracies, but individuals who do not have democratic values. But even more so, if you turn on your televisions today, you can see demonstrations in Athens and Madrid which are more angry in protest against the so-called dictatorship of Brussels than demonstrations in Moscow and St. Petersburg against the dictatorship of Putin. And images like this, even if they are very deceptive, are nevertheless political, can create political facts. So what don't these images show? Yes, it is true today some countries find themselves at risk for the sake of their economic sovereignty, of their economic solvency, of having to cede and surrender some aspect of their economic authority. But what no citizen of the EU needs to fear is that he or she will lose the right to criticize, to differ, to be different, to organize, and to be represented. Neither, even if this crisis stagnates or worsened, does anyone need to fear that he will lose his right to own and keep his property, that he will lose the security that comes from knowing that your business cannot be taken away from you just because someone more powerful than you wants it, does not have to fear that the courts will begin to make decisions on the basis of political norms, political pressure, financial inducement, rather than judicial norms in defense of the civic and public order. And finally, nobody in the European Union today fears, nor will have to fear, predatory and brutal attacks by police, tax authorities, and others who are supposed to protect the citizen, but in practice today, in many countries, simply exist to collect rent for themselves. And for that reason, I would say that even in Ukraine today, and in Russia, for many people, these particular liberties I mentioned matter very much.